All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pables and Jables, where it's non-critics criticize our favorite movies and TV shows. I'm JB,
Brian?
and today we'll be covering season two, episode six of the HBO series The Last of Us. This episode is titled The Price. So, Brian, I started off last time giving my thoughts on the episode. How about you go first this time?
Very well, very well. What an episode. Um, I thought it was maybe the best episode in the entire show, season one and
Wow.
season two included. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I did see that this was written and directed by Neil Druckmann. And for me, I noticed an immense improvement in the writing, and also just in pure dialogue, but also how the characters are handled. For all the politics and stuff that Neil Druckmann is involved in and likes to include in his games, which I'm not too big of a fan of. I think a really strong point of Neil is that he is a fantastic writer in terms of handling dialogue, but also he has a very deep understanding of the characters that he deals with. And I think that is no exception here. I think the flashbacking with Joel and his dad added an immense layer to Joel that I was not expecting. But and then also, we see how the relationship with Ellie basically dissolves and reaches like the climax point that we see it come to. There's still a few things that I didn't love, but I think overall really really strong episode, and it included that signature like trademark of Neil Druckmann's writing where not every character is perfect. Every character is flawed. Nobody is perfectly good and nobody's perfectly bad. And I really saw that come through in this episode, and yeah, it was really fantastic. Not perfect, not perfect still, but just probably the strongest written episode that I have seen so far.
Wow. All right. I didn't know what you were gonna come with
Yeah,
because I know this was an episode that you were like highly anticipating because you knew of the flashbacks from the game, but they hadn't done any yet, so you didn't really know like are they gonna do all of them in one episode, and is that gonna
and they
work?
did.
They did.
They literally took them all, but they turned them into two flashbacks. So it was the museum, which was handled beautifully, and then the other one was the porch, and then the other flashbacks are made up. And but I thought they were fantastic. I think they were unbelievable. All of the other ones were all made up. But I think that's where Neil Druckmann really kind of showed like these were Joel and Ellie. I thought this was the most Joel and Ellie that we have seen, so it was awesome to see Dad Joel too. I feel like
Yeah.
we saw very little bit. We only saw really like half an episode of Dad Joel, so it
Yeah.
was cool.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, dude, one of the best parts of this episode was just getting Pedro Pascal back. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
dude.
just I
So,
don't know. Yeah, it was just I think everyone loved seeing him back, especially you're right, being Dad Joel. Like
yeah,
so much of this episode was just like it was just so sweet between him and Ellie. Like you can tell that they really love each other. Like a father and daughter. What
yeah. But Ellie is still a little shit though, huh?
bullshit. But wait, so I thought it was interesting in this episode. I thought Ellie was actually at the end of this episode was very emotionally mature, which I kind of took me by surprise because she hasn't been. And again, like, I mean, she's a teenager, so I don't expect her to be that mature, but the way she handled like the porch scene where,
Yeah,
he's playing the guitar, she walks back, and when we first saw the episode, I don't know if that was the first or second episode or the first episode of this season, right?
yeah.
After
Uh,
the New Year's scene. Yeah, the first one, because the
yes,
second one
yes,
is
yes,
when
yes.
he dies. So, yeah, and like we think that she just walks past and doesn't have that conversation. So I kind of liked how they threw us off with that because
I,
I needed
I
that
was,
conversation.
yeah, dude, I needed that.
And
Yeah,
if I didn't get that, I was gonna
same.
be really upset. So I
Yeah,
really needed that.
yeah,
And yeah, I thought in that moment, she was actually like very emotionally mature, saying, "I
yeah,
don't know if I could ever forgive you, but I'm willing to try." Like I thought that
yeah.
was Really?
line for
Sure.
line, dude,
Yeah.
line for line from the game. And but they did change something. In that porch scene, um, that's where Joel kind of spills all the beans and tells Ellie. But in the game, Ellie reaches a boiling point where she knows Joel is lying. So she goes to the hospital on her own and sees and finds a voice recording of like a couple of fireflies talking about what they're gonna do. And how, there's some people that want to come hunt Joel down, but basically people have given up, and that's how she finds out what Joel has done. And then Joel comes and gets her, and they have this big argument where basically Joel confesses, and Ellie's like, "We are done. I am never talking to you ever again." And that's the reason for the tension between Joel and Ellie in the
Hmm.
beginning. But here they made it basically Eugene
Yeah.
serving as like the point of tension and then boiling over in that so into that porch scene. But that was one thing I didn't love just because, in the game, Ellie had months to basically process and reach an emotional point where she is able to forgive Joel. And then that's where she uh freaks out at Joel at the dance and then goes to the porch and they have this conversation where basically she says, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I would like to try, you
Hmm.
know, and that's how they leave things. And I really like that, first, it's a devastating moment for Ellie, like Ellie like breaks down, she like has like a full-on panic attack about it when Joel tells her, and like she's like can't believe what happened. And I just like that there was some space and some time for the two to just basically accept what happened. And then Ellie is able to emotionally be at a point where she's like, like you're still basically like my dad, what we've
Yeah.
gone through, But in the show, she basically hears it and then overcomes it right away. I don't know if it was quite as powerful, but the scene still did what it was supposed to do, right?
Well,
So
yeah. I mean, that's interesting. How it's different between the two. I mean, I think I would say yeah. I don't think she overcomes it. I think, she does say that line about "I'm willing to try," but I mean, she's devastated in this scene in the show. I mean, she's angry. She's like I mean, and the other thing she says, which I thought was a fantastic line, was I don't know it word for word, but she says, like that was my purpose. Like you took that away from me. That was my purpose, and I
I
thought,
was supposed to die there.
yeah.
You took that from me.
And
My
another
life
like
would have fucking mattered. Fucking
exactly, yeah,
so good. Yeah.
which is like definitely a different tune that we get from Show Ellie because Show Ellie's definitely selfish, I would say. Except maybe when it comes to Joel, her and Joel, and like
Yeah.
what she'll do, but otherwise, like she's comes off as pretty selfish, um, and not really regarding like I don't know, other people at all, really.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just the front she puts up, after all the shit she's been through. But in that scene when she says like she was willing to die for this cause. And again, I thought that was like really mature of her. And not something that I don't think everyone could say they would do. I don't know. I mean, it's easy to sit here and say like, yeah, oh, yeah, I would totally like if I knew there was a cure. Yeah, sure, I'll give my life. But it's like when you're in the moment. I don't know, man. It's a lot
Hey,
harder, easier
you're
said than
still
done.
dead. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, yeah. And so
I agree. Yeah.
yeah, so I thought that was yeah, so I mean honestly that was probably my favorite Ellie moment we got in maybe maybe not the whole show, but definitely this season for sure. Like that part I thought what like that porch scene and then this whole episode, I mean I thought she was really good in it. So yeah, overall I liked it as well a lot. I thought it was like it had really no action, but it flew by. Like I could have watched another
Dude,
hour
so
of
good.
that.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I liked how they structured it with like her birthdays. So they did like
Everything
every
happening.
was a birthday, and then a year later, and
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I just thought and it started off where like I think it was her 16th birthday, and like she still just seems very much like a kid, and then like yeah,
50.
15th, yeah, she gets older, she starts doing stuff that teenagers do, smoking weed, hooking up. all that, thinking about tattoos, all that kind of shit. So I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of cool to just like see, like it just reminded me of like, I mean, I never got tattoos and stuff, but like, it just reminded me of growing up and like you just kind of the difference in like relationship you have with your parents,
Yeah.
and like stuff like that. So that was kind of just cool to watch between her and Joel. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought this was a really good episode. And Lee,
I
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I really loved how they progressed, and you saw like their relationship progress, and it wasn't perfect, it
Yeah,
was they had issues, and beyond like the secret that Joel kept from Ellie, Ellie was like a very rebellious teenager,
yeah,
and they and then especially when she gets caught with like the girl from episode one, like fooling around with her, and then getting a tattoo, and then she's like trying to move out like that night and move her bed. And I mean, it's a tough job, right? And I really liked that we got to see those moments. I just feel like it just makes it so much more grounded, just
yeah,
so real.
absolutely.
It's just so real, And like at the end of episode or season one, you think that, they had a perfect 5 years, right? Just basically going until like Ellie finds out that Joel
Mhm.
lied to her, right? Basically a perfect 5 years, but it's not, like
Yeah,
and I loved seeing like those like different moments growing up. And then, seeing the progression from how the first birthday was like such a happy one, and the second one was the museum scene.
yep,
And it was just maybe one of the greatest days of their life. And then progressing into that next birthday, she starts growing up and she starts like wanting to do her own thing. And she
yep,
starts burning herself with chemicals to try and hide the bite. And just progressively starts to walk her own path, right? So
yeah.
really dope, really well fleshed out.
Yeah, and I thought honestly, like Joel, they showed Joel, kind of like mature, maybe not mature, but like learn, right? As he's going too. Like like he had like that scene where he got really mad at her, like when he called her with cat. But then like, after some time, right? Like he kind of went back and you could tell like he was way more forgiving and calm and understanding, I guess is the better word, or understanding of like why she was doing it. And like, she's 18 now. It's just
Yeah.
different, right? And so these
He
are
wanted
things
to,
that yeah, and he didn't experience this with his daughter.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. I forget how
A
old
lot
his
of
daughter was. Was she
same. I think she was 14 when she died.
14? So
Yeah,
this is like it's like this is, Dad Joel is like picking up where he left off, but with a new daughter, and like she's 15 on. I mean, they from in terms of like living as normal life as possible because before they got to Jackson, it was, I mean, they were just on the
yeah,
run and it was just crazy stuff, right? So
viable.
they got to Jackson, it's pretty normal life and they have like these normal incidents that a normal relationship that any kid and their parent have. Like it's just how what everyone, a lot of people go through. Everyone has
Yeah,
different upbringings, but like a lot of people go through it. So I just thought
yeah,
it was cool to see like both of them kind of learn from each other and be forgiving until, and then obviously it all bubbles up at the end with really from Eugene, and then they go ahead 9 months from that, and that's what we find out, like you said, is the beef, which I thought was really interesting because as a show only watcher, I didn't know what the beef was at first. Like I figured, okay, maybe she told her, maybe she didn't, like what he did, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like her being, that she's like a teenager, she's sick of him, whatever. And then last episode, right, with the Nora part, she says like, I know what he did. So I was like, okay, then she definitely knew. But then, so they threw me off again. But then I find out actually it was him lying to her about how he was going to handle Eugene. Like he said he was not going to kill Eugene as she goes to get
yeah.
yours, and he lies to her directly, and that's the beef. And then I mean, she kind of knows after that point, like he lied to me about Salt Lake City, and it just
It's the
that
same face.
conversation
Yeah,
can happen. Yeah, she says that she's like, you made the same face when you lied to me, like it was the same thing. So yeah, and I thought it was cool too that day that the Eugene thing happened. She was gearing up to ask him questions of Salt Lake City. And I
practicing
like,
written down questions. Yeah,
yeah. And dude, I like felt her. anxiety there because like I remember times with like my parents, especially like my dad. I mean, nothing like that situation, but like things were like I was like, ah, like you did something right, and you had to like tell you're gonna come clean to your parents or something. Like you had to tell them, and it was like I would like kind of rehearse it out, be like, all right, how am I gonna like do this in the best way possible, and like I would think about the question I was gonna ask, rehearse it out, and so like you could tell in that scene she's like definitely nervous, because like she's questioning Joel
Yeah.
on this really serious topic, and basically like being like she doesn't believe him, like she thinks he lied to him, so um or that he lied to her, so yeah, I just thought everything worked pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I that was something though where in the game it it bothers Ellie every day that and the flashbacks in the game are basically, you get the museum scene and that's almost perfectly reiterated in the show. But then you get a handful of other ones where, you know, um Ellie starts to distance herself a little bit from Joel. And but they go on this mission together and Ellie finds these couples basically who killed themselves because they had gotten bitten. And she tries to approach the topic with Joel again and is like, tries to ask him a bunch of questions, but Joel just isn't having it, and he's like, why are we rehashing this? We already settled this. And then it happens again. And then, there's another flashback where it's just bothering her so much. And then she goes to the hospital and finds out, right? So you could really get like the sense that she was obsessing over it,
Mhm.
and it was causing the rift between her and Joel. Whereas here, it did seem like things were like pretty good for the most part.
Yeah,
But
agreed.
yeah. So, but
But you
yeah,
could
though.
tell it was still bothering. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess before you move on, like, because I do want to point out a scene that I thought was really cool, and I actually had to go back and
Yeah.
rewatch it because I
Okay.
wasn't sure what the significance was. So after the museum, right, they're like hiking back, and everything's great, right, and then she like stops, and it kind of zooms in on Ellie, and you just see the side of her as she's staring at something, but we don't know what she's looking at. And then, Joel turned around, you okay? She goes, yeah. And then she moves and they pan over. Did you notice what they showed at first? Do you know what scene I'm talking about? It's in the woods,
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Fireflies.
the
Yeah.
fireflies. So I didn't notice that at first. And maybe
Yeah.
'cause, we watch on like our projector, so like, the I don't know, the quality, the picture quality probably isn't the best. So I missed that. So I had to go back and rewatch that scene and then I saw the fireflies like, "Oh, okay."
Mhm.
So like it's not like it ever left her mind that like her
Yeah.
questioning did he was he being truthful because they're having like the one of the best days ever like you said, and then she sees the fireflies and that just like triggers it right
Yeah.
there about, well, actually, like I don't know if this is if what happened, if we what he told me is true. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. One thing, that you said about how, Joel like really tries to be such a great parent to Ellie. And it really brought me back to how that initial opening scene between Joel and his dad happened,
Hmm.
and how Joel, or basically his dad was like, when you have kids, I hope you do a little better than me. And then they drop the line when Joel and Ellie are talking at the very end, and Joel repeats the line to her. And that really hit me very hard, and that was a totally made up line.
Yeah.
But I did really like that opening scene as well, just because I think it really establishes that, Joel was making these like difficult decisions since he was a kid, like trying to make like the sacrifice play and trying to be the one that like takes on like the burdens of like the people that he wants to protect, right? And I thought that that scene in general was handled unbelievably well because we get that side, right? And we get to see him basically telling Tommy, like, I'm gonna take the hits, don't worry about it. And as a viewer, you have it in your mind that this dad is like an absolute nut job, right? And that we're about to see this like total villain walk in the door and just terrorize the home, right? But when the dad walks in, it's just a guy trying to do his best.
Yeah.
Just a single father, just doing what he thinks is best in order to raise these two boys by himself. And that hit me also very hard. And I was like, so like when I watch him come in and be very reasonable and then just ask him a couple of questions, go to the beer or go to the fridge and get a beer for his son
Mhm.
and basically have like a real man-to-man chat about it
He
and
didn't
how
drink, but she didn't drink. It really bothered me. He
yeah,
literally he cracked open. I hate when they do this in like movies and shows.
yeah.
He cracks open there, he takes one sip and just leaves. I'm like,
Symbolic.
what the hell is
Purely
that?
symbolic.
What are we doing? What do we? I hate that. I hate when they're like people are like are eating something, they just throw half a sandwich out in the movie.
Yeah.
It bothers me so much. Anyway, I
That's
digress.
a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe Joel just drank like teenage Joel just drank both of them.
Yeah.
Had a
Him
night.
and Tommy got blitz that
They
night,
had a
dude. They got
night. Yeah, they're like, oh, dad has beers. All right, let's drink them.
yeah.
Sorry to do
But
that for you. Yeah.
yeah, no, but I thought that was really well done because I wasn't expecting that, right? And
Yeah.
then when the dad is like actually like seemingly just based off of that one conversation, was probably a good dad, you know?
No, I agree. I totally thought it was gonna be he was gonna walk in, he was gonna be a menacing, like alcoholic father.
Yeah,
I totally thought that too. So
yeah,
I was definitely surprised when he did seem, he did seem like he was doing his best. He's like
yeah. Like he cares about his kids and he
yeah.
just happened to beat the shit out of them sometimes, you know?
Well, and I mean, but I guess I'm saying like I get where both parties are coming from because you could tell like Joel is scared more so he seems
Yeah,
scared for Tommy, his little
yeah,
brother.
yeah,
Um, and so like and the dad, he admits his
yeah,
wrongdoings. Like he
yeah,
admits that yeah, like I shouldn't do that and I do and hopefully you can do better than me one day. Like I'm doing better than my father, did. And I thought that was important too when he tells a story about how his father hit him and it was really bad. He's like, he's like, I never hit you guys like that. And I never will, basically.
yeah,
Um, so again, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, people doing their best in the circumstances, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, I'm glad we got that scene with Joel. I was wondering where they were going with that scene with like young Joel and Tommy. And then I think the payoff was good because, like you said, Joel, he says the same thing. He repeats it back to Ellie, right? Like, hopefully you can do better than me one day. So I thought that worked really well, and it was a great, you know, came full circle from the beginning
yeah.
of the episode.
Yeah, the whole episode was really just Joel centric, and
Yeah,
we got it was a deep character study of the person that Joel is, right? And we got to see his loving side, we saw his manipulative side, and then we saw, the things he's willing to do in order to keep this secret.
yeah.
And and I thought it was so good, But and then also they finally brought in the guitar, bro. I was like, where the hell is this guitar?
Beautiful
Finally,
guitar. I mean, what
yeah.
a craftsman. Like, dude,
What
that
a
guy is so handy. The craftsmanship on that guitar. Like literally it was a gorgeous guitar.
master
It was
guitar, yeah.
flawless. He had a bone. He like carved a bone for one of the pieces of it. It's just crazy, man. And he did the sketching of I think it was the moth, right?
Yeah, it is a mod.
In her
Yes.
drawing. So yeah, I mean, super cool, dude. When she had the cake hands and he was handing it to her, I was like, please don't grab the guitar with the cake hands. And I was like, my OCD started going. I was like, please don't grab
Yeah.
the guitar. This thing's flawless. And luckily she wiped them off and then she grabbed the guitar, so I was cool with it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So they basically reinterpreted how the game opens. And so it basically opens with Joel visiting her in the garage and then playing that song for her and offering guitar lessons. So instead they turned it into basically on her very first birthday. But I thought that was really, really good. Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really good.
Let's talk about the museum scene, man. Let's talk about
Museum scene, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
museum scene was really special.
Yeah.
You've talked about before how in the game Ellie's like obsessed with space and dinosaurs
Yeah.
and we didn't really get that until this scene. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
What
really think they've explored that in the show.
what was it like a bit of did you like think about that about how,
I
like I
did.
didn't get into dinosaurs like that or yeah.
No, I mean, I thought about like when you said that, like how in the game she's really into. I was like, oh, cool, like we're actually seeing that. Like, yeah, it's she climbs a T-Rex. I mean, the space thing, like I thought that was it was I thought it was a little cheesy when they like she puts the headphones in, and they're doing the countdown, and like acts like whatever. I was like, it's cute, it's cool. I'll take it. Yeah, no, I mean, I thought the museum scene was really special, and like it was, best birthday she's ever had kind of vibes.
Yeah. I was really excited to see this flashback because it's basically like the core flashback, and most video game players, this is probably their favorite part of the game. Just because you get to really see the best days of their relationship.
Hmm.
Um, and then but more than that, I did uh I did really like the countdown part, but I thought it was better in the game just because the way I think Troy Baker is an unbelievable actor, dude. I just think that Troy Baker, the guy who plays Joel in the video game, what just this meticulous job. And I do think some of those subtleties get a little bit lost in the show that Troy Baker brought, but I feel like that's just kind of how TV shows are, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think Pedro Pascal overall did a wonderful, wonderful job. But I think, it's just really cool for me to see him taking on these kind of roles. And I don't know if like that darker, harder side of Joel is necessarily a great fit for him, but him as his dad, I think is just so good. It's
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think he plays a good, like complicated person. Like,
mhm.
Joel's a very complicated person. Obviously there's
He
a
is quite complicated.
really dark side to him.
Yeah.
And I think he plays that pretty well. I mean, yeah, but, I mean, I don't know. I wonder how much of that is just the writing, and how much of that is actually Pedro
Yeah.
Pascal. Um, but no, I mean, that's fair. But yeah, I think this episode was, you know, one of the strongest of his work in this show, I would say. I mean, he had some really good scenes in the first season, but yeah, like you said, this was very Joel centric, and it had to really all to do with their relationship. There was really no other outside drama except for the Eugene thing, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of it. So it was really
Yeah.
him and Ellie, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah. Talking about the Eugene thing, dude,
Yeah.
I did not really get why Joel wouldn't let him see his wife. I didn't get it. Yeah.
Well,
I
yeah.
was like,
I want to ask you about that, like what your thoughts were, because
yeah.
well, I mean, okay, logistically. I don't even know how far they are from the town. I don't even know when Eugene got bit. So how long has he been infected now? How long is it going to take them to tie him up? And I mean, they're not going to drag him from on the horse. So are they going to put him on the back of one of the horses? Probably not. And like what, risk him getting turning? Or
Yeah.
are they going to like tie him up and walk him with the horse behind, but like him trailing the horse? How long is that going to fucking take? Like, I don't know. Yeah, all that was kind of I saw both sides of it. Like I feel like you try to do it, but like I mean, obviously you have someone in the bat behind him keeping an eye, and if you start seeing that he going crazy, like yeah, it's not hard for you to shoot him,
Yeah.
right? Like especially at least you try to take him to see Gail and like
Yeah.
bye to his wife. At least try, and if it doesn't, yeah, if you don't get there in time, you don't get there in time. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it was definitely interesting to see Joel basically just decide like right off the bat, like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna be, we're not doing this. Like I'm gonna kill him
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
woods.
I was like, just let the guy do it, man. Like Ellie wants to do Ellie's
Yeah,
begging him.
yeah,
And then if it was for a reason like he knew who Ellie was or something like that, then I think I could have really jumped on board with it. But he was just a
no, it
guy who
wasn't.
wanted to say goodbye to his wife. I was like,
Yeah,
bro, just let him do it.
I know, yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I felt really bad for Eugene in that situation, man. That was like I think if it's Tommy in that situation, he totally tries to bring him
Yeah.
back.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, Joel's never really shown us too much. Um, Sympathy for people he
Yeah,
doesn't know.
correct.
And I don't, I kind of got the feeling he didn't know, like him and Eugene didn't know each other that well. Obviously, they know of each other because they've been in the town, but like he's not, I don't think he's they're not close at all.
Yeah.
And so it almost just seems like he definitely gets can be selfish in that regard. Like he just, you know, I don't know. He's like, why risk it at all? Why risk
Yeah.
him turning at all, becoming infected and possibly, messing stuff up. And I'm like, it's just no, let's just take care of it now. And then lie. I mean, and lie to his wife. That was even, I mean, that was messed up too, man. Like, I don't know, like that, all that I definitely disagreed with. Like that part I
And
did
then
not.
Ellie ratted him the fuck out,
Yeah,
bro.
and she honestly, like, I'm glad she did. She did the
Yeah.
right thing. You should. That's just like awful, like to lie to the guy's wife about how it actually went down and like what he even said in his last words. It's just that, no,
Yeah.
man. I don't know. That's just like super disrespectful, in my opinion, to both of them. That the wife and Eugene. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. That part really, like him killing him. I was like, but I was like, all right, I get it. But then to just go and straight up lie to her just to like keep the peace. And I was like, nah, dude, I can't
Yeah.
buy that.
I can't believe Gail kept seeing him as his therapist after
I know
that.
it
I
made
was
that
like,
scene with him and Gail even more powerful.
way more understandable, bro.
'Cause
Yeah.
yeah, she came out and said like, I hate you for that. Yeah, I'm really glad we got the Eugene story though, because they kept talking and we were saying like,
Yeah.
hopefully get it because they kept referring to it in the first couple episodes, and it's like, all right, we got to know what they did. So I
Yeah.
think it was cool how like as part of this flashback episode they incorporated that because I'm really glad we got that, and I think they did it in a good way because it was, we learned what the beef was, and it was Ellie basically like she saw him lie about this, and she's like, oh, he definitely lied about Salt Lake City, and it just took a while for her to finally, for things to bubble up for her to finally approach him about it, but yeah, I mean, I thought they did a really good job with that.
Hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
Also,
Yeah.
Eugene seems too old to be going on patrols. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, he seemed like he was in his
Yeah.
60s, probably. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like you got a lot of young bucks in that town. Like, do you need
There's
Eugene?
like 1,000 people there.
Yeah, do
1,000.
you need poor
That
old
young.
Eugene going out.
Yeah.
Come on, man. But they made it sound like it's one of the safer routes. I mean, the one Joel and Ellie on, he said is like the safest trail they have, but they couldn't
Hmm.
have been that far from where Eugene was.
Yeah.
So, maybe they just didn't expect, they never really expect something to happen there. But, I mean, it's a zombie apocalypse, man. Like, could be infected everywhere. I don't know. Or raiders, right? Like, they just don't know. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Poor Eugene, man. At least he got a nice view before he bit the dust though.
he did. He did. Yeah. Yeah. Not what he wanted, but,
Not what he
he
wanted.
even says that. He's like, I wasn't looking for a view.
Yeah.
Do you recognize who that was, who that actor was?
No, but he did seem familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on
Yeah,
it.
The Matrix. He's been in a lot of stuff, but The
The
Matrix. Forgetting
Matrix.
his name. Yeah, he was Cypher in the first Matrix, like the guy who turned.
Oh, yeah, the one who turns on them.
Yes, yes. What's his name? Joe Pantoliano. Yeah, he's been. I
Oh,
mean, he's been in a lot of movies
yeah, the
and
guy
stuff.
who wanted to untake the red pill.
Yeah, he wanted to basically like be plugged
Yeah,
back into the Matrix as like a
he wanted to get plugged back
rich,
in. Yeah,
important person, and he's eating the steak.
that
He's like, I know the
that's
steak isn't real. He's like, but it tastes so good.
I
Yeah,
see.
that
I
was him. That was him.
damn.
Yeah. What else we got in this episode? I have a question. So we get a conversation between Joel and God, why do I always forget her name? Tommy's wife,
Maria.
Maria, at the New Year's Eve scene, right? That we didn't get in the first episode. And she basically says like she basically apologizes for calling him a refugee earlier in the day. Um, I don't know, like, did you see any significance in that scene? I don't really know why they kind of did that. Because it didn't really seem anything that like, I don't know, moved Joel's character forward or made me feel differently about him
Yeah.
or anything. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't, I'm not quite, I wasn't quite sure why they.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a plug-in part to me. Yeah, but I think Maria as a whole hasn't really gotten super well developed this season. either, so
Yeah, no, they
or
haven't.
has she shown a ton of personality? I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah. No, they haven't really like dove into her too much. At least, yeah.
I I will say though, now that the flashback, all the flashbacks were really great, and I'm glad to have reached the point where we got the answers to everything. But this next episode, I think they're gonna cut out like 100 things, dude. And there is a pretty clear endpoint that I think they're gonna do now, but for them to reach it at this point, they're gonna have to like squeeze in like 15 hours into 1 hour,
Wow.
so I think it might be a little bit messy. So
Mm.
we'll have to see. I do kind of wish they made this episode a little bit longer, and that way we could have at least gotten what the fallout of Ellie returning back to the theater after her interrogating Nora and everything. I think that would have probably have helped a lot. They could have found somewhere to cut it off a little bit after that, but now I'm like, oh my goodness, I just, you know, uh,
Yeah.
there's so much
What
material left,
happened?
especially one episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how long this last episode is going to be. I could see it being a little longer, maybe, but um, yeah. I mean, actually, they can't squeeze 15 hours into it, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Uh,
I have no idea how they're gonna handle it now. Yeah.
Going back to a scene in this episode with the moth, right? He sees like Ellie drawing moths, and he thinks like he's like wondering like what is it? Joel wonders like what does it symbolize, and he thinks it's like change and growth, which is pretty fair. Like made sense to me. I was like, ah, yeah,
They still enter a cocoon, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he like goes to Gail, and I thought it was funny when she's like reading a book at the do they have diners? Like we were talking about like every
Yeah.
time I see Jackson, I'm like, it is like more normal. Like they have
It's
freaking
just
diners.
normal life, dude.
Read a
Yeah, she's
book. I'm like,
just enjoying a cup of coffee,
yeah,
reading
man.
a book.
Yeah. Um, but and then I thought it was funny when she's like, "Do you see like doctor is in sign?" Like when he walks up to her and asks her a question, he's like, and then she's like, "All right, I'll bite." Like, what is it? Like, what? Why are you
Yeah.
here? But then she says that the moth symbolizes death. So, what did you gather from that? Like, were you supposed to just get that? Like, Ellie just has this kind of like dark side to her, that Joel maybe didn't know was there, or is there some other meaning behind that? Do you think?
That's a great question. I think my interpretation of that was that necessarily one, I think that Ellie really struggles to grasp that, her immunity basically meant nothing. you
Mm,
know. And so I think that kind of plays into because she also included a little like a quick scene where, it's just a bunch of moths, and then she wrote something along the lines of like, you have a greater purpose or something like that, right? And I think a big thing for her is um that whatever she thought her purpose was just ended up not being it, right?
yeah.
So I think now that I'm talking about it out loud, it could be something like how she thought she was going to be a butterfly, but now she has instead become a moth kind of thing, as well.
Okay.
I do think
I
that
like
she
that.
feels, a couple of things in the game that happened was she feels very responsible when people you know, um, become infected and die because she's like, too bad there's not a vaccine. That's what she would say in the game is like, if only there was a vaccine, if only there was a way they could have been immune, right?
Hmm.
And so for her, it kind of becomes a point where she has this unbelievable ability, but there's no way for her to, spread that to the world.
Utilize it,
Or
use it. Yeah, you can't do anything with it, right? The,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I mean, the only people that at least that they've knew about that could potentially do something with it, he killed. But again, we don't know that. Like because she asks him a series of questions, he just like he nods, or he shakes his head, or he nods, right? Which I thought was actually cool. Like I thought it made it more powerful because like you could see. I thought Pedro Pascal was fantastic in that scene. that
Hmm.
like in the at the end on the porch because could tell like how like hard this was for him, but he was finally coming clean. Like he could not lie to her anymore. Um, and so, and the one question she says is, did they have a cure? And he goes, he nods. And
I would have been like,
I
well,
was
you know,
like, that's the one where you go, well, we don't, maybe.
probably,
Like,
but
here's the thing, kid. There could have been, but they were just gonna like literally kill you and pick apart your brain without even really knowing.
yeah,
So I don't know. All right. So I was a little justified in what I did. So don't be as mad at me. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of the more realistic conversation, but I get it for it doesn't, it makes the game and show better when it's kind of all or nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But again, it just every time they talk about this cure, I'm like, I I don't know, dude. 50-50 shot, maybe. Maybe. Like probably less, dude. I don't
yeah,
know. So anyway, whatever. Um
yeah. Um, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah.
like your explanation though for the moth. I think that was, I mean, I don't know, it makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, a big thing for Ellie is just coming to terms with the fact that her immunity means nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything for the rest of the world, and whatever she thought her destiny was, it's not it.
Which is
You know?
crazy. I mean, that is a crazy thing to live with, right? And it's like it's so out of your hands. It's so out of your control.
Yeah. And every time, just imagine, having this ability and thinking you had the ability to save the world, and that's just not true. And now people are dying around you, getting infected, and you just can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Brutal.
yeah, brutal. Brutal indeed. There Going back though, to something about the things that Joel was saying and everything like that, in that porch conversation, one part that I really, really loved, between the two when he was talking, and I thought Pedro Pascal's performance on that porch scene was probably his best, so far as well in the show. But I really loved how he couldn't look her in the eye. Like when she was asking all these questions, and like he was like looking away, and he was basically crying and like just nodding, and in response to her basically
Yeah.
like interrogating him about this, and then but and the dude is just broken down. In the game, one thing that I will say though is that Joel doesn't really cry like that. Joel, you almost the only time you really see Joel cry is when Sarah died. And then you see one part where he breaks down, but it hits hard. And in the game, the part where he breaks down is when she says, "I don't know if I can forgive you, if I can ever forgive you, but I would like to try." Right? But when she says, "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," that actually breaks Joel, and that's when he like kind of like almost breaks down, and you start to see him cry a little bit. And it's really really powerful, and that's kind of what I mean. Where I really like that subtlety there. Where here, this Joel's a little quick to cry. He cried in the spaceship. He cried the second she starts bringing it up on the porch. He dude's a little quick to cry.
Yeah, sure, but I totally understand it. Like
Great performance. Great
most
performance.
people, most people probably would tear up in all in
Yeah.
these situations. So
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough. Like you wouldn't cry, come on, man.
Me? Nah, bro. Come
Come
on.
on,
I'd
bro.
be like, I'd be like, I killed them all, dude. Oh no. That's a line that I
Go to
love.
all of them.
Yeah, that's a line that I love though. Is when he says, if I had another chance to do it all over
Yeah,
again, I'll do the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then and
and
and he says because I love you like you can't understand until you have one until if you have one of your own,
yeah,
which is something my parents always say to me. It's like you don't understand like the love you have for a child until you have one, right? So, yeah, no, I agreed. I thought, yeah, that was powerful because he knows he did wrong, but he would do it again to save her because he loves
yeah,
her, like his daughter. She's
yeah.
daughter.
There's no
His daughter.
scenario where he just lets her die. There's just no
Yep.
scenario.
Yep. So yeah, no, I agree. I forgot about that line.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have much else in this episode.
It was a great episode, overall.
Yeah.
For me, though, I like narratively, like writing quality, even just like seeing the progression, and seeing Ellie, have like that teenage rebellious stage and just act like such a brat. And then, Joel like trying to figure out the best way to actually like be a father, and then, and, coming to a point, even the point where he accepts that she wants to move out and says like, it might be good for you to have your own space. And seeing those really like tough, imperfect moments between their relationships as she continues to grow up, and then even just having everything line up on her birthday and progressively deteriorate and seeing their relationship deteriorate, it goes from happy to basically a devastating birthday. Just narrative structure wise, I thought it was really well done, and just seeing it from all these different points of views, I think it was just an overall unbelievably well written episode of TV. Not even like beyond The Last of Us, right?
Mhm.
So I for me it was by far the strongest episode is of the season, but also probably the strongest episode that I've seen of the show. And I think overall, it really, the quality of this season has been bizarre
Yeah.
in how inconsistent it
A
is.
little all over the place. Yeah.
Like if you were to have asked me what my favorite episodes were, I would never have said like one of them would be the episode where Joel dies.
Right.
I would never have said that,
Yeah.
but for that and then this flashback episode to be probably the two strongest episode of the entire show for me is so weird. And at the same time, some of the best what should have been episodes turned out to be some of the worst TV I've ever seen. Some of the worst lines I've ever seen. So it's just the highs and lows are so super super inconsistent in this season. And now that Neil Druckmann isn't writing the next episode, I'm back to being worried. I don't know if this like the quality of how good this episode is indicates the quality of anything to come. So
Yeah.
I'm a little worried. I
Yeah.
also do want to say that I think that Bella Ramsey did a phenomenal job as Ellie this episode. I think that she's had her highs and lows in and some of her own struggles throughout this season, but I thought this episode was a real strength for her. I do think that she fits, and it's made me realize I think she's a really good fit for young Ellie, but maybe not this darker, more serious Ellie, older Ellie that she's supposed to be in the majority of this season, right? So, but seeing her as like the younger Ellie again, it just reminded me, she is a good fit for that. She's a really good fit for that. So,
Yeah.
uh, and just seeing her like joke around with Joel and them like having this back and forth that they just don't have in season two. I thought it was just really good to see.
Yeah, she definitely comes off more as like a kid, like a teen, and not as like a brooding, dark
Right.
character who's gonna F you up, who's
Correct.
gonna kill a bunch
Yeah,
of
not a
people.
threat. She's not a non-threat. Yeah.
Unless the episode, the scene with Nora kind of changed that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's her turn in the show. Like she found her, she tortured her to death, we presume,
And now
probably,
she's ready to go.
and she's ready to go. So maybe, maybe she's not as chipper and no, not as many, back and forth ha-has with Dina. It's like now we're getting the shit done, Because I mean, I'm really excited for this scene where she goes to the theater and we see Tomley hopefully and Jesse. And they have this conversation of
Yeah.
like this fight of like, no, I'm staying and doing this. They're like, no, we're going home. So
Yeah.
I kind of hope that's how this episode opens and we go from there. But you know, we shall see.
Yeah. I'm still hoping to see Tommy fuck some shit up, but at this point, I
I
like
think I could see him
there's
having
no
to
room.
like to get out of the situation, not necessarily to
Yeah.
move forward with their goal. I
Yeah.
but we'll see. I don't know. I mean, maybe Ellie can convince him, right? Yeah, I don't know, but I agree. I mean, we haven't really the only thing we've seen Tommy do action wise was kill
Take
that
down a
bloater,
bloater.
which was
Oh, that reminds me. Actually,
it
there's
was
this dope part of the game, crazy part of the game, where in the middle of your mission that you do with Ellie, um, yeah, so The Last of Us has brutal death scenes. Like when you die, they are brutal. And one of them, if you die to the bloater, is that the bloater will basically like rip your face apart, like from like the take put its hands in your jaw and just rip them apart like that. And there's a part where Joel and Ellie are fighting the bloater, and it takes Ellie and it puts his hands on his face, and it looks like you're about to die. But then Joel comes in with a fucking machete and one solos this bloater and just hacks it down by himself, and it's so sick. I was kind of hoping to see that in this flashback, but it's
Wait, this
cool.
was this was in a flashback
Yeah, this was in the flashback. Yeah,
happens?
yeah, this is in
Wow.
one of the flashbacks in the game, and he just blasts away on this bloater for almost killing his daughter, basically, and it's so sick. It's
Yeah,
so dope.
yeah, no, we didn't get that at all. That
Yeah,
is sick.
it's so dope.
They've already hit the bloater budget.
Yeah,
The bloater
yeah,
budgets. They went.
and
They had the big Hulk bloater punch through the logs, and now they
yeah.
budgets.
And these bloaters, they are significantly buffed. So I don't know if
Yeah, dude. I mean, that
they
bloater
have gotten
that
some
Tommy
huge
killed.
buff.
That Tommy, yeah, dude. That bloater that Tommy killed took an entire canister of flamethrower. Like, I mean, Jesus, dude. So yeah, no, I these bloaters are a little OP at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. That's crazy
would
though.
have been
Yeah, that would have been
yeah.
cool to see.
But we should get a ton of action in this next episode.
Yeah,
Uh,
I assume so. I assume so.
yeah.
I hope we see Abby too. I would like to see Abby.
Where the heck is Abby? You know,
I've
that's a
not seen
whole
her
thing.
since like second. Yeah,
I think they are so my theory is that they are basically saving all the Abby stuff for the next season. So
maybe because
uh
we haven't seen Isaac in a. They introduced Isaac in the one episode. We haven't seen him since either. So
I haven't seen Isaac. You know, there's still one like main character in the video game that we haven't seen at all yet. He hasn't even been introduced. There's a main character that hasn't even been introduced.
wow,
So
yeah. There's
uh
yeah, it's,
yeah.
there's a lot of players on the board still that
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited. Next week finale,
we'll
baby.
see. Yeah,
I'm
we'll see.
excited.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back here probably same time next week, next Wednesday to go through the finale. And I don't know, depending on how that goes, maybe we do a season two recap. Unless we really hated the finale, then we might just say no.
I'm worried.
No, we
I'm
might just
worried.
say
To
we're
be
not
clear, I
doing the
am very
recap.
worried. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Maybe
know,
we,
I
we'll see how it goes. If the finale was bad, I don't think people are gonna have an appetite for a recap. I just think people are dude, if this finale's bad, I had a friend text me the other day that after this flashback episode, this season of The Last of Us is hot garbage, and I was like, wow.
Oh, he didn't like this last
I
episode.
get yeah. I also have a friend who totally quit watching it after uh
Like,
the one before the last. So not even yeah. So the one where Dina says I'm pregnant, he stopped after that. So yeah, dude. I don't know. I mean, that's a very
I could
small
see
sample size,
why
but
people I could see why people would not be a fan of this, especially because the show is just starting to pick up pace, you know, with Ellie you know, doing the interrogation. So then to dedicate a whole episode to a flashback would
yeah,
definitely disrupt the pacing a little bit.
sure.
Uh I mean I needed this episode, so
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I thought it was good. I thought it was good. We'll see, man. We
yeah.
shall see. All right. Well, I think that does it for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the episode, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more content. And yeah, comment below for other movies and shows that you'd like to hear us non-critics criticize. So until next week, have a good one, everyone. Peace.
Peace.